Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'd like to take a look at some new Zekrom decks from the set Black Bolt. So as for some new cards, all from the set Black Bolt by the way, so that's quite handy, you won't have to buy any white flare cards, which is nice. But yeah, Zekrom EX has the very powerful attack Voltage Burst for 2 lightning and a colorless, does 130 damage, and then does 50 more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. Then you do 30 damage to yourself. So that kind of sucks. So like you never want to be doing damage to yourself in the Pokemon TCG. But 50 more damage for each prize card your opponent's taken is a very nice effect. So of course Zekrom is a bit more like Blood Moon Ursaluna, I guess. Like you want to be using this card in the mid to late game really. But I would say this is a bit more versatile than Blood Moon because you'll be able to do a lot more damage than Blood Moon towards the late game. So yeah, I do like Zekrom for that reason. Also got Air Balloon, which is just going to reduce the retreat cost of this Pokemon this card is attached to by -2, which is really nice. It just gives things like Electrike and Zekrom free retreat, which is really nice. So do like Air Balloon in these decks a lot. Also got the Electrike with, of course, the attack Dynamotor. Now, sadly, for those of you who haven't seen the news but do own like the older copies of Electrike, like the original print from the black and white era, sadly, you won't be able to use that print. I have no idea why this is. I think it sucks, but like for some reason you're just gonna have to like get a hold of the new ones, which is a bit of a shame if you already have, all the eels already. But if you're a new player, then that's not gonna matter to you. But with a person who has like an existing collection from back in the day, then that kind of sucks, I think. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame. But yeah, very powerful ability Dynamotor, which says once your turn, you may attach a basic lightning energy card from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. So it just means it's just really easy to power up your bench lightning Pokemon, basically. Also has a retreat cost of 2, so Air Balloon's great. So none of this like relying on multiple copies of Switch in the deck. It just means you can just run a few Air Balloons and be happy. So yeah, this first list here, I do apologize for the quality of this one, but it was a turbo deck that I wanted to feature. I promise like the next ones all look like this, so look a bit nicer than this, but I will break this one down the best I can. It is playing 15 basic energy, so yeah, 15 energy is a lot, but you do want to hit generator, of course. Well, actually, I was going to say there's no generator in this list, but yeah, there is 4 copies. So yeah, 4 copies of Electric Generator, 4 copies of Nest Ball, 4 copies of Ultra Ball, 3 copies of Team Rocket's Watchtower, also 1 copy of Future Booster Capsule, which is interesting, 2 copies of Air Balloon, 2 copies of Night Stretcher, 1 copy of Prime Catcher, that is 4 copies of Arvin, 3 copies of Boss's Orders, and 4 copies of Research. So quite simple in the trainers department. You really just need a lot of everything, which is nice. Also playing Squawkabilly, Mew EX, Pheasantipity EX. Also playing a 3-2 line of Dynamotor, it looks like. Although that could actually be a 2-2 line plus, I think that's maybe a Zeraora. I'm not actually sure what that last card is. On like, I'll get the mouse up. Where is it? This one here. I'm not actually sure what that is. I think that could be a Zeraora. I would have to have a look at Limitless and look at the card database again. But yeah, I think it could be Zeraora. Either way, I would feel a bit more comfortable playing a 3-3 line, to be honest, of Electrikes. That's one gripe I have with this list. But overall, I think it's really solid otherwise. Then 2 copies of Zekrom, 2 copies of Miraidon EX, and 2 copies of Iron Hands EX. So I would say this is the most Zekrom-focused build you're going to get out of this set. So if you really want to go for that, then I would recommend this list. Personally, I think it has some pros and cons. Like, I love the trainers, really. I think the trainers are cool in here. I like playing turbo decks, really. But the fact is, I feel like this could be a little bit inconsistent, especially if you don't find like a nest ball for Squawkabilly and stuff like that. So, yeah, it could get a little bit risky here, but I do like the look of this list overall and up for giving it a go. But yeah, this next one here is playing 1 copy of Zekrom and no Air Balloon in this one, which is surprising. Like with all these big basic Pokemon, well, like I suppose you have Latias, and I suppose like Magneton's not really going to be in play for very long, so maybe that's why there's no Air Balloon. But either way, kind of interesting to see. If you didn't want to run Latias or you couldn't afford it, then maybe Air Balloon would be a decent substitute there. But yeah, also playing the Magneton, which will knock itself out to accelerate 3 lightning energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. So of course, you just whack it all on Zekrom, really. That's kind of the synergy there. And then your opponent's getting a prize, so you're doing 50 more damage. It's great synergy. But of course, you can't just like spam Magneton for the entire game. Otherwise, things are going to get very risky because you're giving your opponent a lot of prize cards and all of your Pokemon are like moderately fragile. I would say that's like the one criticism I have of Zekrom, really, is that 230 HP isn't a lot, really. Like, you have Big Charm, I guess, but, at the end of the day, you can still get KO'd by things like Dragapult, Defiance Band, and, like Gardevoir can one-shot you quite easily, so bit of a worrisome on that frontier, but otherwise pretty solid. So I'm guessing you just want to use Generator to get Iron Hands going first, and then Magneton kind of comes in there to help out Zekrom. So yeah, pretty solid list overall, I would say. Next up is we have a bit more of a toolbox style deck. This one, again, is still playing Zekrom, also playing a 2-2 line of Electrike. Now, interesting enough, this deck is also playing the Brave Bangle card. Now, Brave Bangle, which is this one over here, can only be attached to a Pokemon that doesn't have a Roblox, so Galvantula, I'm guessing, in this deck, and then it gives you plus 30 damage against a Pokemon with a Roblox. So, kind of interesting, or I should say Pokemon EX, actually. So, yeah, kind of interesting. Like, this Galvantula is mainly here to, like, one-shot Charizard, and I guess Grimmsnarl now with the Brave Bangle, so that's kind of cool to see. But yeah, overall, I don't think the Brave Bangle is like super, super great in this list. I don't think it's critical to the deck. I think you're better off with like another copy of Big Charm or like a fourth copy of Arvin or something. But yeah, it's a really cool list. So either way, like it's a very, very committed toolbox deck. Like you have a lot of options here. I still worry about Dragapult and Gardevoir with this deck, but overall, I think it's really solid. Also got that 2-2 line of Electrike. So yeah, really interesting. Then next up is we have I know like the slides barely moved there. It's a very similar list, but this one's actually playing Lily's Clefairy, which is interesting. No Zekrom as well. So maybe this player didn't want to play Zekrom, or maybe they couldn't get a hold of it, but I just thought it was interesting and worth mentioning. Also playing a 1-1 line of Dynamotor Electrike. So it is playing new cards, it does have access to them, but it's choosing not to run the Zekrom. Maybe that's a deliberate choice, and you just really want to focus in on Pikachu throughout the whole game, which would make sense. Like Pikachu can one-shot anything really, which is of course very nice and very appealing. And then anything you can't one-shot, at least you have Galvantula. So pretty solid list overall, but probably not my favorite to be honest. But yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about me Zekrom decks down below. Are you inspired? Will you be trying out Zekrom from the new set? And yeah, thank you for watching.